Hello, dear cellists. This is the first in a series of videos that I'll be making about vibrato. Now, in later videos, I'll be giving you specific exercises you can use to work on your vibrato, but in this first one, I'll just be talking about what vibrato is and what it isn't, and I'll be showing you some close-up angles on my vibrato so you can see exactly what it is that I'm doing. So to start out with what vibrato isn't. Now, keep in mind this is my perspective on it, this is how I've been trained, but if your teacher tells you something different, then you should go with what they say. But I believe that vibrato is not like turning the handle on a door, okay, or turning a doorknob. So it's not this sort of pivot motion or rotation around the wrist or from the elbow. Rather, it is a movement of the whole arm in which the angle of the hand stays relatively consistent to the angle of the fingerboard. Okay, so I'm not flopping around this way. Rather, I'm moving my arm, and the finger is just so soft and relaxed that it is free to kind of jiggle along. Okay, so I am not in any way purposefully moving my finger. Rather, I'm soft and relaxed, so it can kind of cushion the blow of each of these impulses from my arm. Okay, now, when I say I'm moving my arm, I don't mean that I'm moving my arm, right? It is a whole arm motion in a way, but not this kind of, about to fly away thing. So we'll take a closer look at that so you can see it. But just be aware that your elbow should be staying more or less in a consistent location. Now, since it is the arm that is initiating this movement, that means that as I switch from finger to finger, nothing about my vibrato should really change. It should stay, the same speed, the same width, okay? And there should be, from note to note, from finger to finger, absolutely continuous vibrato. Because if your arm keeps going, your finger will keep going, right? Some other things to consider. Where my thumb is, for example. My thumb, you'll see it in a second closer up, but I just want you to know that it is most certainly not squeezing, okay? Because if your thumb is squeezing, again, this kind of thing might start to happen to you. And probably the rest of your joints will lock up as well. All right, so really important to be aware that the thumb is loose, that everything is loose. And let me just adjust my angle so you can see what this looks like up close. Okay, so from this angle, I think you can see best how my whole arm is indeed moving, but it is not moving uniformly like this. All right, what happens is I'm opening from the elbow just a little bit, and that causes this sort of counterbalance in my upper arm. Okay, so as my forearm goes down, my elbow will lift ever so slightly. Okay, and it's pretty small, it's pretty subtle. But if I mainly focus on what's happening on my forearm and just be sure that this joint right here is loose and I'm not squeezing, I think the upper arm will kind of take care of itself. All right. Now, I think from this angle, you can also see pretty well how the angle of my hand in relation to the fingerboard stays consistent. So again, I'm not rotating around this way, but it stays pretty much up and down. And I can show you that from the other side. Hold on 2 seconds. Okay, so from here you can see the actual angle of my finger in relation to the fingerboard. Now you'll notice that I'm not squared up and perpendicular, but rather I've got this little tilt back. And honestly, that's pretty much how I play all the time. I'm very rarely, or probably never, at this angle. Because, for example, when I need to extend, that helps me reach. Also, it allows me to have that finger jiggle just go from up to down. Okay, so you'll notice what my thumb is doing here, that it's kind of moving along too, right? Now I could keep it rooted while I'm vibrating on any single finger. I don't think there's really any need to, but certainly when I change from finger to finger, my thumb is going to have to move to rebalance the hand. So for example, when you first started learning to play, your teacher probably said thumb goes behind second finger. And that was true then. But now you are a vibrating cellist, and thumb is going to need to adjust depending on what finger you're on. Okay, so for example, here I am on first finger, and my thumb is more or less behind first. Here I am on second finger, and my thumb is more or less behind second. Third and fourth, probably it won't get all the way down there because that's just not so comfortable, but it will at least give you some sense of being balanced there rather than hanging out back here somewhere. Also, I want to point out that with fourth finger, since fourth finger is my smallest, weakest finger, often I will vibrate 3 and 4 together, okay, because that just gives 4 a little extra support. You can certainly do that with the other fingers as well, though I don't necessarily think it's necessary. But definitely 3 and 4 can work well as a team. All right, one more angle I want to show. Oh no, before I do, want to point out what the rest of my fingers are doing. So pretty much my hand is in this blob formation, which is perfect. Now, if you notice that the rest of your fingers are splayed out like this, including if your thumb is out somewhere strange, then that's a sure sign that you must be holding a little bit of tension here and there. All right, so you want whatever finger you're vibrating on, the rest of your fingers are going to just blob around it. Okay? So not this, not this, not this, this. All right? One last angle to show you. Okay, so I think from this angle it's easiest to see that movement within the finger, which you'll recall I'm not really doing on purpose. I'm not making it do it. It's just soft so it can do it. But basically when my hand comes back, then my finger elongates, and as my hand comes down, my finger compresses in on itself a little bit. So I've got like long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, that kind of thing. All right, and again, that was this thing that I showed you, with my finger being flexible in all those different places. Okay, so on the fingerboard, that's what it looks like. One last thing I wanted to say. What was it? I remembered what the other thing I wanted to say was. Basically, just that the vibrato impulse is not a down, up, down, up, down, up kind of thing. Rather, it's a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So it's almost, you can think of it like a bouncing a ball kind of rebound effect. It just springs back, okay? And that is important because otherwise it becomes very cumbersome. Okay, so ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. And just put a bunch of those together and you've got a lovely vibrato. So, as you start working on your vibrato, please realize that it is going to be a process. It probably won't just magically happen in a day. So be patient with yourself. Check out the other videos that I'm going to be making with different exercises. I think you might find those to be helpful. And I would suggest maybe to start, don't worry about putting it with your bow. Okay, just do your vibrato silently, because if you can get this motion down and feeling, so you can put it on autopilot, then when you actually add your bow, it won't be an issue. And generally, be forewarned, when you first start doing vibrato, it will probably sound ugly, right? So that's why we just don't bother doing it with the bow until we've really kind of got the motion down. That can eliminate the frustration aspect a little bit. If you notice that it isn't working quite right, probably what you need to do is check out if you're holding tension anywhere. Okay, so just take some deep breaths, no need to squeeze, have fun with it, because the more relaxed you're feeling, the more relaxed your fingers are going to be. Okay, and good luck.